Okay, let's get started. Welcome. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. My name is Erica Hall and I'm the chair of the Peaslee-Building-Committee. So tonight is a community forum to talk about the Peaslee Building Project. And as we jump in, I'd just like to introduce some guests in the room and members of the team working on this project in no particular order, starting with Dr. Coakley, who is the esteemed principal of Peaslee. Thank you for being here. Any other staff members from Peaslee here tonight? Thank you. Thank you very much. And then we also have from the superintendent's office, Greg Martineau, here with us tonight. Are there any members of the school committee? Lauren, thank you for being here. We have some members from town appropriations and also from our Peaslee Building Committee here. And then we have members from our design team at Flansburgh. If you could wave your hands so we know who you are, Flansburgh. Welcome. And then also members from our owner project manager team, which is PMA. Thank you for coming. So we have a full house tonight. Apologies if I missed anybody. The goal for tonight is very simple. We want questions, we want feedback. So we want to hear from you tonight. So Flansburgh Design and PMA are bringing slides to show you possible options for this site. And then they're going to ask you for feedback and questions. And if you see them scribbling furiously, it's because they need to hear from you, because ultimately this is your project. So you're the voters. And so their job is to bring a project before the town that is in alignment with the town's strategic plan and also the district's strategic plan, and also something that reflects your desires for your school building. How did we get here, Erica? Thank you for asking. That's a really good question. So we're in year 6 of the strategic plan for the district, which launched in 2020, 2021. With that plan in 2022, Northborough did a grade configuration study. In 2023, Northborough approached the Massachusetts School Building Authority with a letter of interest, recognizing that partnering with the MSBA results in reimbursement on a project cost. And then the MSBA issued a letter of invitation to their eligibility. And so the town, in the town meeting 2024, voted to allocate funds for feasibility. And those funds are what bring these lovely folks here tonight and all the feasibility work they've done so far that you'll hear about tonight. And now is the most important part of the project, because it's where we hear feedback. Specifically, 2 items of feedback we want to hear tonight. Please come to the microphone, please fill out the survey. The first one is the building footprint. So what should this building look like, including a new build or an addition renovation? And the second is grade configuration. There are 2 options being looked at, so we want to hear feedback on that. Flansburgh is going to start the conversation with some slides to give us the framework for our discussion. I know that it can be daunting to come talk at the mic, but the only extra step is just to say your name and where you live, and that's super easy. So please come at the Q&A time, and they're just asking that you hold Q&A until the end, and then we'll have a panel available to address any questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Flansburgh. Again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. I'm Ken Kovacs. I'm a principal at Flansburgh Architects. I've had the privilege of working on public schools since 1999, working in many different districts, and this is community forum number 1. But before it goes out to, hopefully, securing town funding for this, we'll be up to 10. So I like to say at 10, I see a lot of familiar faces. So I encourage everybody to bring their friends. Please come back. Because what you're doing now is setting the foundation for this project. And it's really important because every district across the Commonwealth contributes to the MSBA for that funding. And it's really your chance to step up and take advantage of what all taxpayers are paying for. So there's your neighborhood, your neighboring communities that are building new. They're taking advantage of what the MSBA is providing to you. And so now is a really good opportunity to look at this project, take it serious, and understand that you're queued up to take advantage of the state's money for a project that's needed. The MSBA came to Peaslee. They evaluated your school. They understood the need after that SOI was submitted, that statement of interest that says, we have an H facility. We're lacking educational space. And the MSBA toured this, and they recognize that, and you're part of this process. So I just encourage everybody, reach out to your friends, reach out to everybody. Please, community forum number 2, we want to see everybody there. So thank you with that. I'm Ken Kovacs. I have Vince Doobie, project manager, senior associate, and we have the folks from PMA as well, your project manager. What I want to point out, you can't really see them all, but it's not just us. Part of the process is we have 17 trusted consultants. These are your civil engineers, your landscape architects, electrical, mechanical, plumbing. So you see all of them listed on this chart. So it's not just us. This, again, is a serious project, and I'm going to walk you through the steps that the MSBA has regimented for us to make sure that you guys can make the best decision moving forward on the most appropriate option for your school project. So just going into a little bit of the MSBA, they're a grant funding agency. This is what they've done for, really they revamped in 2008, and this is where 1 cent on the tax dollar goes to public school funding. And they created a process that allows your district to make this school your own, but also staying within their state guidelines. And the best part about this is it's the funding. So this project's slated to get 47 to 49% of reimbursed cost on eligible costs that are associated with this project. And then if we look at what happened with the Lincoln Elementary School, you had 52.88% reimbursement by the state. So when I say this is your chance, step up to the plate, take advantage of this project. Because there's a lot of other municipalities that are in the queue as well, and unfortunately they're not going to wait for you to come back. It could be another 10 years. But it's a great agency, it's a great process, and it's delivered fundamentally change education across the Commonwealth and bringing state-of-the-art education to the districts, but really focusing on what's needed now. So when you look at the MSBA, you go in their database and look at their website, they're educators. There's a few politicians involved, yes. They're builders. They care about what these projects look like, and so they're vested into making sure that what you're doing and proposing is the best for your school. Looking at their process, it's really simple. So we're in the PDP. So we're sitting here today as an introduction. This is all about collecting information. So we evaluate your existing conditions. So all those engineers, 17 engineers come out, they evaluate this school. We start working on some space programming, some visioning of what this school needs to look like for the future to support the needs of Northborough. And then we submit that on April 2nd. And then we go into the preferred schematic report phase of this process. And so what that means, highlighted in blue, that's a heavy lift. So there's going to be a lot of community forums. So I want to see everybody out here. So we're looking at lots of different design options. We're putting magnitude costs associated with that. We're looking at logistics, and that gets packaged, and that goes to the MSBA with one preferred option. So on August 26th, the MSBA board votes on what this town deemed the most preferred option. They most likely will agree with that because everybody's vetted that process out. And then you go into schematic design. There's a final budget that's created with the schematic design process. We submit those drawings at the end of the year. So I would say January 2nd, when the SD package gets submitted to the MSBA, the main part about that is it captures the space, it captures that one option, but it really locks in the total cost for the project. So when that budget is put in January 2nd, that's going to lock in. So you're not going to come back and say, hey, Ken, are we going to see cost overruns? It's going to go $10 million over, et cetera, et cetera. We're diligent, so we have contingencies, we talk construction logistics. So when the MSBA reviews that, when it gets submitted, They know exactly how much this project's going to cost because that's what you're going to your town vote for local funding in April. So we want to have the right cost captured for this project. And then, so where we are right now, and Erica had mentioned the statement of interest, but it goes back a little further. So we have an update to the strategic educational plan going back to 2020, grade level configuration studies in 2022. So this has been a long process. And that brings us to today that you see here. We entered the PDP, that's that red arrow that you see right there, after the OPMs and architects were hired. And so there's been a lot of legwork to get to where we are and that thoughtful grade configurations that you're going to see as part of this presentation. But overall, looking at this, after a successful town funding in April of 2027, we go into construction documents and we anticipate the school opening in fall of 2030. Long way away, but there's a lot of legwork that has to go into it. So the two enrollment options that are being studied, and this was submitted to the MSBA comments, and so what we're looking at is the neighborhood school. That's 310 students, K through 5, with the addition of pre-K. And a larger school of 625 that consolidates, and it's based on grade spans. So as you can see here, you'd have 3 elementary schools that are K2, and then the Peaslee would be focused on grades 3 to 5. So that means these grades are consolidated into each of the schools, and it's more specific, and we'll go into some advantages of that a little later in the presentation. So we go through the existing conditions. Here's your site. We're focused on one site. We have DPW to the north. Here we're just noting some play areas, parking, etc. And I would say half the site is wetlands that you can see to the justified to the east. And just some ambiance photos that everyone pulled into the site and kind of gets a sense of what you're up against. So we have deteriorating parking lots, obviously not enough parking to do what you do day to day and have these community functions. We want to address that. Play area, I think this is a great area, but what we're seeing in a lot of different schools now is how do you expand different types of play areas for your elementary school, especially if we're looking at the pre-K as part of that. They would have a separate area. So this would be something that would be part of the project. But when we toured this and saw the kids out there, obviously they love the school and they love the surroundings. So on this site, this is what we're focusing on right now, is we have the wetlands, and the wetlands has a setback. That's a 100-foot setback from the edge of the wetlands. And why I'm saying this is it begins to show you where you can build. So the heavy dashed line is the wetlands. This lighter dashed line is the 100-foot setback. So that's already telling you what you can do on your site. There's a great area over here where you have an existing play area, but it's surrounded by wetlands and 100 foot. So when we look at buildable area, that's going to be excluded, but it could still be an asset for outdoor play. But beautiful areas, there's stone walls on the property, all this kind of ambience that really creates this as unique. There is a lot of different topography that has to be adjusted when we start looking at design options, and we're kind of illustrating that with these orange lines here. So all these factors come in when our engineers begin to look at different options. Just a look at the fields, DPW in the distance, beautiful stone walls. Part of the study is our engineers, so we have geotechnical engineers, we have civil engineers. So in December, everybody was doing their due diligence. So we had multiple teams in this school, but also on the site. And so I want to thank the principal for accommodating, because we had big rigs out there doing structural borings in the back of the site that you can see highlighted with those orange dots. So the structural borings were conducted. If we have an addition to construction, we want to understand the boring capacity of that for that. And it all goes down to when we start looking at our type of structure that also is compensated with the cost. So good news here, conventional footings can be used. So that was really helpful. We also did test pits. So that was our civil engineer doing big giant holes. And why they did that, I know it might sound boring, is you basically have no stormwater management system on the site. So you have your pavement, you have your building, and the water just dissipates. That's not allowed by code today, so they would do test pits to understand the way that the soil percolates. And so what that's going to dovetail into the engineers creating a stormwater management system that meets codes. We also looked at your existing buildings. We have 45,000 gross square feet of building, and we do this, we inventory it going by the MSBA standards for general classrooms, special education, gymnasium, auditorium, all those spaces. You can see the kind of the key off to the right. This is a great school, but when you compare it to the MSBA space template, your gym is half the size of what an elementary school should be. Your special education, you have 1,200 square feet of special education space in this building. The MSBA default for this size school is 4,000. So you're deficient on special education. Your library space is resourceful, but it's a classroom, and I can't say it enough, it's about 800 square feet. A library for an elementary school using the MSBA default template is 2,500 square feet. A place where you can have books and learning areas and STEM spaces. So it's a great school, it's served your town well, but looking at it, it doesn't even compare with the MSBA default space template for all those spaces that are crucial to deliver education. And so what we do is, after we talk and we have our engineers come out in December, we start evaluating as kind of a cost perspective. Is this school a candidate to be renovated? We'll see. We're not there yet. We're collecting information. But as we go through it, the substructure and most of the superstructure, it's well maintained. It's fine. We can salvage that. So when you look at the stuff in yellow, or sorry, in orange and red, it's completely missing, it's deficient, it has to be replaced. Everything in yellow has to be replaced, but there's components that can be salvaged. So when you strip this building back to make it code compliant today, if you were doing a new construction project, there's about 36% of components when it comes to the overall cost that can be salvaged, but that doesn't mean you're saving 36% of a construction cost. The structure still has to be upgraded. The walls have to be reinforced. All the finishes have to be replaced. There's no fire protection. There's no sprinklers in this building. Like, probably know that, but we want fire protection. We want a sprinkler system in this building. So when you strip it all down, you look at this building, and yes, the town has done a great job with this over the years. When we go to the next phase, you're most likely going to see that the cost to renovate is going to be comparable to new construction because of the codes that we need to meet. But there are some components that I think we could save a little bit of money when we start going into some renovation options. And I'm just showing this is the way we analyze these buildings. So we go through structural, overall structurally sound, there's minor cracks, no foundation settlement. So we would need to adapt the existing structure to meet code. That means we're going in and we're bracing areas. We're putting in new structural provisions in different areas, especially the roof diaphragm. So there's going to be costs. Great building, but we have to bring it up to code. And these are just some of the images that we've taken, areas that need to be addressed. Architectural. So there's basically no thermal quality to this building. So you're pumping in energy to comfort the kids during the season's heat. It's going right outside the window. And why it's going outside the window is those are single pane original glass. It's barely keeping the wind out, but you might as well have them open. So you have a high operational cost because you are trying to energize this building to keep it functional. But because your thermal envelope can't maintain that or retain it, it's going right outside the window. And so just to meet code, all the windows are being replaced. All the exterior walls have to be supplemented to meet our R value or thermal value, and then that's a baseline. So we can't just leave it the way you see it today, because there's a nice block wall here that's painted, but there's nothing on the other side. So you're not a candidate to leave this intact. And you can see some of the deterioration that's going on here. The roof has exceeded its useful life. Standing seam has been replaced. But there's a lot of ponding that's going on within this existing structure. As you can see here, provision because of leaks. And just kind of giving you a glimpse. I'm not sure how many people in this room look at this school day to day, but we were fortunate enough to kind of get in and take a good look. So again, everybody's resourceful. They're doing what they can, but you see a power strip with things plugged in there. That's because there's no power outlets. That's not right. That's why the MSBA, when they toured this building, said something has to be done. We either need to completely upgrade it or replace it. Technology, again, you've been keeping up with the times, kind of like at your own home, when you need an upgrade and you kind of bring provisions in, but that's not how you would see a new public school. So there would be dedicated IT rooms, you would have systems that are compatible with one another. So again, you're doing what you can to be resourceful and keep this going, but this has to be addressed. Plumbing, majority of the fixtures are not ADA compliant. They've met at the end of their useful life. So again, all plumbing infrastructure would have to be replaced, even in a code compliant option. Fire protection, there is none. Mechanical, supplemented along the way, keep up with the times, take care of some dedicated spaces, but you have aged units that need to be replaced. And so I want to just pause on this. So fresh air is really important, right? Everyone thinks heating, air conditioning, but fresh air. So fresh air in a modern school comes from units that are piping in fresh air and they're circulating around. So you don't have that. You have aged unit ventilators that are taking it from the outside and bringing it in. Now, completely fine now, but if this is the project, it has to be addressed. So the volume of this space typically would require a large air handler to recirculate fresh air. I'm just saying that because right now you have unit ventilators bringing in fresh air, and then if you look at each of the classrooms, it's the same thing. It's aged unit ventilators from the outside. That's not how we bring fresh air to young children today. Pneumatic systems. Nothing is on a digital or a building management system. I think this picture speaks for itself. And then there are provisions for comfort that are provided in dedicated spaces. But window units, I think they satisfy the need today, but not in a new build or renovated project. So again, the gymnasium, as you see in this picture, beautiful space. It's half the size of the MSBA default template. So that's at 3,000 square feet. Any elementary school across the Commonwealth that took advantage of the MSBA process, that's 6,000 square feet. You've been to the Lincoln School, so you know what to expect. But again, it's a space that's hard to condition. The mechanical system is aged and fatigued, and so it can run hot, it can run cold. And then that air volume, that air circulation that's going in there is not, it's not there, and it's required. Electrical, everything needs to be revamped. I like this slide because here's a light post that, unfortunately, at the end of its useful life, it can't be wired, and so the school is resourceful by putting a solar light on that, and I think that shows how resourceful everybody's being, but that doesn't meet the requirements. You need to put candles, safety, and security. And in a typical classroom, again, you have age lights in this kind of shed high volume of the space, but is the light on the desk surface? There's a requirement for book candles so kids can actually work in light. These are dim spaces. So just looking at some of your existing spaces, so this is your library, which is about 800 square feet. A new library is probably 3 times that size, and just give you a glimpse into what that could be. You see here, there's library reading spaces, connection to STEM spaces, so just a vibrant space, and that's what typically we would see in an elementary school. Your gymnasium, a new gymnasium. Your classroom, a new classroom. Ample light, take advantage of daylight, but also our LED light fixtures. And then within this space, it's fully tempered, full heat, full air conditioning, and also bringing that fresh air to the classrooms, not relying on an integrated system of a unit ventilator that's piped to the outside. That collects a lot of dust as well. Typical hallway, so this is your student experience day to day. They meander the hallways, and this is a little bit more vibrant. Hallways now connect different types of spaces, from classrooms to enrichment spaces, and that's what we'd look to infuse into your building. Art room and maker spaces, again, resourceful, incredible projects as we see posted everywhere. But today we're seeing art rooms that are combined with technology, as you see in this image. So there are laser cutters, 3D printers, lots of ample space, lots of great natural light. And then courtyard, you have a great courtyard here, but oftentimes the question is, if you need to do a courtyard in your designs, how do you make it more functional and easy to maintain? And this is a good example where 90% is a hardscape that art rooms, STEM spaces fill out to with minimal planting. So initial thoughts, and I know this slide is a little hard to read. So what this does is, it takes a fact-based measure from the MSBA default space template for the 310 students, including the pre-K. So that would be your neighborhood school. This is kind of the status quo of replace this building with a new building. It also captures all the spaces that you don't have. So your classroom spaces meet the MSBA space template for the numbers. So that's great, check. You go into special education. As I said before, the MSBA default is at 4,000. You're at 1,200 square feet for special education. Your art space, an art room is 1,200 square feet. You're probably at 700 square feet. So that's not enough to work on projects. This space actually aligns, it's a good size with the servery and the kitchen. Administrative and guidance, you're way under the MSB template for that. The nurses suite is under for that as well. And then custodial maintenance, again, you're probably aligned, you have some good space here. But overall, what it means is for the neighborhood school to replace this and include the pre-K, you're looking at 81,000 square feet. This school is 45,000 square feet. And we broke this number out just because this is a new introduction. So with the pre-K, that's at 12,000. So with the K-5 neighborhood school, meeting the MSBA default template and also accommodating some Northborough Pacific programs, you're nearly 70,000 square feet outside of the 45,000 square feet that you currently have. If we go to the consolidated option, so now this is district focused based on grade span, so you'd have 3 schools that are K2, and you'd have 1 school that is 3-5. That also would include the pre-K. So excluding the pre-K, you're at 100,000 square feet. You add the pre-K, it's an additional 12,000 square feet. This is really what this conversation comes down to, is you know at a base minimum you have to do the neighborhood school, but there's great advantages to looking at what that visioning and what the district strategic plan has been outlining all those years to date. But just to give you some square foot perspective, but the building you're sitting in right now is 45,000 square feet. So looking at potential buildable areas, this is the one selected site. We have DPW that we kind of compartmentalized to the north. The 2-acre area that you see here from the first slide is surrounded by wetlands, and when you look at those wetland setbacks, you really can't build a building over there. So you're looking at an area in front of the school or behind the school. So when we talk about logistics and construction, disruption, etc., we're experts at this. We do this all the time. We're going to provide in the next round of the community forum number 2 a whole variety of different options that show you how we're going to manage both enrollments. That building that was 80,000 square feet and the building that was going up to 120,000 square feet or 112,000 square feet. And so the first thing we have to look at is, and it's required by the MSBA, it's called the code-compliant option. And what does that mean? So I know it's been kind of a long presentation, but all those engineers, those 17 engineers, and looking at the unit ventilators and all that good stuff, and looking at the thermal envelope, it all has to be replaced. So just to bring this up to code, we need to look at, as a baseline, what renovating 45,000 square feet looks like and what we can do educationally. So we know right away that it doesn't align with the enrollments that the MSBA has put as part of this project, because you have 45,000 square feet and we're already up to 80,000 square feet just to meet space standards. So the code compliant option is probably not going to be the preferred option because it doesn't meet what you need to educate. So you still would have 1,200 square feet of special education. You'd still be deficient in special education. You'd still be deficient in the gymnasium. You'd still be deficient in art and music, all those enrichment spaces. But we have to do this as a baseline so they can see where we start from. What this means is we would do new finishes and increase the thermal envelope and put new mechanical systems in here to meet code. So we're looking at 45,000 square feet and what that cost is going to be. And then we go into the next series, which is, we call the B series, that's the 310 neighborhood school. And so we're required to look at a variety of different options. And part of this is renovation addition and new construction. So we're going to look at different options to renovate 100% of this building, renovate perhaps 75%, and renovate 50% with the addition. And then we are required to look at new construction as part of this. So what we're doing is we're showing you what we're required to do as part of this study. So you have the fact-based information you can to make a judgment that aligns educationally and fiscally with what this project was going to do. And then we do the same thing for the 625. So as you see between the two slides, you see if it is going to be at a renovation, we can keep more of the orange. And then it just balloons up because it's a larger building. We're forced because this building can't accommodate more than 45,000 square feet, and so the new addition is going to be even larger. And part of this will be looking at a complete new construction at 112,000 square feet on this site. So right here, you're already getting an introduction to 10 different options. Without taking a deep dive into what it looks like, you're seeing it more factual, as you would see. All these options would require modular classrooms. So what that means is, if you can see tracked on, I have a construction duration. This is an important fact because probably in the next community forum and the one after that, we're going to start going into construction costs, etc. So what we've tacked on here is a conventional 24 months to execute a project. Each one of these requires modular classrooms. And what that means is, based on the 45,000 square feet that you have here, you're looking at $5 to $7 million of modular classrooms to support any construction project. And that's not reimbursed by the MSBA, so that's a direct cost to the district. The only one that wouldn't would be the new construction options, because we would build that off the footprint of the existing. And I just want to stress, even the code compliant option, we still base it on a singular construction project for 24 months. So even the code compliant, you're going to require modular classrooms. We've reduced the construction duration down to 18 months, but it still requires modulars. There are some big high school projects out there that have a lot of surplus space where they can move kids into a wing and renovate a wing. You don't have that here. You're 45,000 square feet. It's a very small building. So we can't move kids from one side to the other. If we do that, what that means is that 24 months becomes 36 months. And what that 36 months is, it's escalation and construction contingency added on top of that. So if you're not using modular classrooms, that construction duration is going to go by another 12 months. And there's costs associated with that. So you kind of get hit either way. You either do modulars or you extend it for another year, which maximizes disruption to the school. So oftentimes new construction without modulars is sometimes the best solution for convenience. But we're going to see how all these numbers weigh out when we look at the cost for the renovations and the new construction. And so what we're showing here is this is just a thought that you're going to see in the next community forum. So this is just a sketch of, here's your existing building for renovation, and then here's the new construction. Very similar to Lincoln, where you maintain the building and then you extended out that leg for the gymnasium. So that option kind of aligns with that. And this is just to give you a look and feel of what to expect in the next community forum. And then here is the new construction option that you can see, and the red dashed line indicates the footprint of your existing Peaslee school with the new building built behind. So we're not there yet. This is just kind of getting an introduction of where it could be. So we're really excited. I wish this was like community forum number 2, because I'm a little more happy and I'm showing really cool stuff. But today's about information, and that's what I want to stress. So with that, we do have some questions here, and I think we had some handouts.
Yeah, so you can... Hi everybody, my name is Jenna Lees. I'm with PMA Consultants, the owner project management team, and I have my colleague Ian as well from PMA. So feel free to scan the QR code to answer these 4 questions. We also have printed copies if you would rather do a physical copy. So just, if you want to raise your hand, I can hand you a printed copy, or if you would like to scan the QR code.
Would anyone like a printed copy?
So we really want to hear your feedback, so if you can, please scan the QR code. And if you have any other questions, we also have an email that you can refer all your comments, ideas, or any questions to on the flyer.
Thank you, Kent and Jannalise. Are you ready to open Q&A now?
Yeah, I think we want everybody to take in the questions.
Sure.
We can open that up. That can be part of the conversation.
Sure. Let me get this microphone ready.
But we're considering this a workshop, so these questions we'd like to get some feedback on in real time.
Sorry, can you call me? All right, so I'm going to open it up for questions and welcome some of our experts up front. Just as a reminder, I'll have about 3 minutes for questions, so we'll make sure we get to everyone. And if you have one that you want to email later, our team will receive and address that too. So welcome to the mic. We can start.
Thank you. I'm Scott Rogers of 26 Northborough. Just for informational purposes, we see the addition of pre-K in the mix, just with the background on that.
It's something that the district was contemplating and had conversation with the MSB early on, and that goes into some of their earlier strategic plans, and I can open it up to Greg if you want to elaborate on.
Good evening. So preschool. So currently preschool is housed in Southborough. So we have around 5 or 6 preschool classrooms. Our intention is to move it back and design a space for preschool that is intentionally for that age level. So our thinking was when we, whether it's an addition or renovation, we add a preschool wing to house Northborough preschool students.
Just one more. And when are you anticipating this next community forum?
The next community forum is, I think, April 27. Is that correct? Okay. See, that's, here we go. Good question.
Hi, Leslie Rutan, 22 Hemlock Drive. 2 questions, actually. Now, the curriculum space is required by MSBA in order for them to approve it. So we have to abide by their rules as far as the amount of curriculum space.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, in our case here, we had obviously the Lincoln Street School renovated. Does MSBA ever refer to that before approving a project, saying, have you looked into their project? Is there anything from that project that you could, incorporate here? Or do they simply put that aside and say this is going to be its own project? Is there any desire on MSBA's part to have any kind of similarity to Lincoln Street School?
No, they're not.
Okay.
This is a clean slate.
Okay.
So what happened on the Lincoln Street, which is a great project that was renovated with that addition, this is a clean slate. They
Okay.
actually, as part of the process that we went in, they want the visioning, they want the educational plan, the driver to make this Peaslee. So they probably don't want it to align exactly with what happened with Lincoln because it's a different outcome after you go through the updated educational plan for this project. But they're not going to go overlap between the 2 projects.
And a third question, as far as ADA compliance, what other things have to be incorporated in either an admin or the building?
So ADA compliance, even on the code compliant option. So we have to make sure that all entries, toilets, visual wayfinding, audio systems, so if there's fire alarms, if there's strobes, so those are the basic ADA components that have to be part of it. That's a significant part. So if you look at this school, just to bring it up to ADA, we have to look at the play areas, we have to look at the parking area, we have to make sure that there's clear paths, that you have a direct path into the building, and then you go into the physical components such as replacing all the toilet fixtures, drinking fountains, and making sure that we have the audio and the visual with the strobes for fire protection. But that would comply as well with that code compliance. But yes, we have to meet all codes and regulations. 521 CMR, the state of Massachusetts, that's our Bible, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your information. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob Straussy, 24 School Street. I could probably ask an hour or 2 questions. I'm glad to be at this early one, and I plan to attend as many of these as I can. A lot of it, for me, comes down to what are we going to spend on this? I mean, I don't know if you're aware, our taxes went up $1,000 a household this year for the fire station. That was kind of a boondoggle of planning where they didn't arrive at numbers for what it was going to cost until it was basically too late to turn around. I don't want to see that happen again here. Like, I would like to see some true transparency about what is being planned and spent. I already have some nervousness about, you know, I already see like we're going to the tear down version no matter what you say. That's just what, like, I know you're not saying it, but it just seems like that's...
Our firm has more,
like that's what we're
our firm
selling
has
here.
more ad reno projects than any other firm in the state of Massachusetts.
I mean, I do like to hear that because, you know, as I'm a fellow designer, I've been, you know, I went to college, I got my master's architecture. I just, you know, as an architect, you want to design as much as you can yourself, you know, aesthetically. Yeah, that's how you want it to look. So, you know, this building, it probably has pretty good bones. I mean, these buildings were built during the duck and cover times. They built those with those concepts in mind. I was surprised you said, you know, that it needs major structural upgrades, given the type of construction that it is.
And I'll elaborate on
I
that.
hope you can elaborate on that a little bit. But when do we start talking about, you know, narrowing it down to dollars, nickels and dimes, not pennies anymore, so nickels and dimes? When do we know that? I did have a question for Greg too about like, what's the impact if you go to a 3 to 5 program? How is that going to change the other schools? What are the costs going to be incurred at those schools for that? I was kind of surprised that that was even coming up as an option, so maybe you can speak to that. But I'd like if you could speak to the, you know, the budget a little bit.
Absolutely.
I think it's like, it should be primary driver. I know like the kids are number one, but with the way money is going these days, taxes are increasing, it's pricing everyone out of town.
Yeah.
And the town's just not really growing, honestly. Like, about, he's grown 4% over the last 10 years total, not 4% a year. Like, the growth has been minuscule.
Right.
So to add like a project of this size is just killing the individual taxpayers right now.
So I'm going to use your first talking point. So when I started designing public schools in 1999, there was no MSBA. It was called the old SBA. And what happened was people were taking arts and classroom spaces and converting it into mega athletic facilities or mega auditorium facilities, and they were taken away from enrichment spaces. They were oversizing their building. And what happened was they oversized their building by 30 to 40%. And then when they went to operate those buildings, they couldn't pay the bills. So when the MSBA came in, I'll get there, when the MSBA came in, they wanted to right size what a project should be, and that's why they created that default template. So they look at all different projects. So right now, you're not going to oversize your project because the MSBA does not want to give you a burden. They want to make sure that you can operate that facility. So you might see those square footages because your enrollment's bigger than what you have here. Your building's going to be bigger than what you have here. The way you operate is going to be bigger than what you have here. So just as a safeguard, the MSBA has already vetted that out. They're not going to give you a building that's too big for you to operate. It is your choice to decide if you're going to go for the neighborhood school or the larger consolidated option. The other part that the MSBA did, once they started in 2004 or 2008 is when they officially came in and they got rid of the old SBA. That red column right there, that's your budget. Like, that is the budget for the entire project. So what happens in December of this year, you're going to know exactly what you're paying for this project, and it's not going to go over. So when you go to your town meeting and you start looking at different performers in different ways, how you're going to, look at the tax burden, et cetera, you'll know that. The MSBA makes sure you know that. And that's why in December of this year, you'll know exactly what that, depending on what kind of bond you're doing, et cetera. Before you vote in April, you're going to know what that number is. But we can't go over what that number is established at the end of this year. So if I tell you the building is $100 million and we start construction, oh, by the way, it's 110, it's never going to happen. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can see like, what was the original estimate was $40 to $100 million. So that's $80 million fluff, like
For which estimate?
When
When you
the
went to
town
the
first
town,
presented what,
yeah.
you know, when they asked for
And
feasibility
that's
study,
probably,
and then, so that's, I
you're
mean,
probably,
that's,
you're probably gonna be in that, you're probably gonna be in that range.
but that, I mean, that's an $80 million. Is it, you know, there's $40 million, and there's
Yeah.
3 times that is $120 million. Like, that, I think, like, that's a sizable,
But that's why we're here at community forum number 1, because by community forum number 5, you're gonna have all the answers to your questions. Because what I'm doing is I'm going back to my database and I'm gonna make sure I'm prepared for you on the next one. And we're gonna start outlining exactly why the costs are gonna be the cost. But it's not my choice if you go with the neighborhood school or the consolidated option, you know, or include pre-K. It's going to be your choice. My job is to basically tell you this is how long it's going to take, which has a direct fact, because you're an architect, you kind of know exactly what that means when it goes to the construction cost. So we're going to start having magnitude construction cost in the blue PSR phase.
I appreciate that, because I feel like that was absent in previous projects, or, you know,
You
when
can't hide-
when
you can't hide
come from
anything.
my side where a client comes to you with, this is how much money I have to spend, versus, you know, this is how much we're going to spend,
I
like,
just want to make sure the mic
Sorry.
is picking up.
oh, sorry, yeah, what I'm saying is, like, you know, somebody that wants their house renovated or something, they know what they have to spend. We're, as a community, we're coming at this where you're giving us a ballpark that has an $80 million gap from the low end to the high end.
So
And that's a difference of probably $2,000, $3,000 a year in our taxes, you know, an increase annually. So it's tough to swallow, and I appreciate that, you know, yeah, we have 10 of these, that's great. I want to see, you know, I'm very happy to hear that in schematic design, we're going to know what it is, but it's just like, I mean, it causes me a great deal of anxiety to think about what our schools are going to come back at for, like, what we want. I hope you're just being vigilant and understanding that.
And I can, you know, a couple comments. The first is that going through this process and moving a project forward that fails at town meeting, at a future town meeting, is a waste of time. So early on in this phase, we need to understand what the community's priorities are. Obviously, costs. You know, I have no doubt that that's going to be a driving factor for this project to get approved at town meeting. So as the Peaslee Building Committee moves through this process, we'll move from 12 different options to 3 to 1. And that's why we need to hear from the citizens early, because we need to know if cost is the #1 driving priority, then moving forward with a 120,000 square foot brand new building most likely is not going to get a supermajority at a town meeting. So we need to be upfront. We need to get a sense of where the community is. We need to get a sense of where the community is in terms of its capital projects in the long-term future, not just in 5 years, but in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, and look at this project in a context. But I can guarantee I have some experience around failed votes in Southborough. And we learned a lot. And we didn't do this type of, okay, what are your priorities? Cost, you know, safety, making sure kids have a great school that meets kind of the educational programming. We need to get that information out now and get an answer from the citizens now and not wait. Otherwise, I'll have 2 failed projects under my portfolio.
Greg, while you have the mic, can you address the second part of the question, which is about the grade?
Yeah, so in terms of, you know, I come at it from an educational perspective. So there are advantages of having our neighborhood schools and having consolidated schools. So the thinking around our neighborhood schools, it's great for community building within the community, great for kids to connect, smaller experiences for students, and they get to stay with a cohort for, you know, 6 to 7 years, depending on when they start, whether it's preschool or kindergarten. One of the challenges is when you're thinking about education and experience and placing kids and trying to create group dynamics within schools that work well, it's really a binary choice. You know, for a first grade cohort of kids, they have 2 choices: classroom A or classroom B. And at times when you're dealing with a neighborhood model school, kids travel through that experience and it can get really challenging. Honestly, by the time they get through 5th grade, they're ready to expand their wings into middle school and have a larger peer group. The other challenge is resources. In order for us to launch programs, we have to replicate those programs across 4 schools. So if we want to start a world language program, it's a much more difficult lift in Northborough with Northborough neighborhood schools. And I'll use Southborough, we're grade span schools, where we can hire 1 world language teacher to work in that grade span school to implement world language. Where Northborough, we have to hire 2 to cover 4 schools. And it's, it's more efficient in terms of grade span. So that was our thinking of having larger cohorts of grades. So at the elementary level, pre-K through 2, you would have 2 to 3 to 4 classrooms at a grade level in each school. And then in the 3 through 5, you would have all the 3rd grade teachers together, all the 4th grade and all the 5th grade teachers together for collaboration. And then you have the operational efficiency of launching programs. So world language, music and strings, a lot of the programs that we operate and think are really important to student experience just become easier to implement. And that is also the return on investment we need to look at. What operational savings, what faculty staff savings go into the equation of how much does this really cost.
Thank you.
And just to finish up on your structural question, yes, code compliance wise, there's some minor modifications that would have to be done to this, but if you had an addition, that's where you would have to do merging an addition to this existing superstructure.
Our high-tech, yeah, can you borrow those microphones?
I just wanted to ask you,
Your name and your
I
address.
apologize.
Thank you.
John Bourgeois, Washington Street. Obviously, this has been going on, discussions have been going on for a while, so I may have missed this. Is the driving force behind this project a compliance issue with state regulation? Meaning, as you said, the rooms aren't the right size for the art class or the special education class, etc. Is that what's driving this, or is it Northborough getting out in front of it and simply saying the schools are, time bomb, we really need to get out in front of it and update the school, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. So I think Ken mentioned that this building has served the community well. It was built in the 1960s.
Yeah.
It predates ADA, predates IDEA, so the special education laws. And it just was built and designed in an era where education was different. So not having a library, not having the right size gym, not having art rooms. The classrooms are actually pretty good size for what we need. So partly we have a 1960 building that no longer meets the educational programming that is required today. And then really thinking about it's time for energy efficiency too.
Sure.
This building is so inefficient, and can we have a zero carbon footprint or net zero building, and thinking about the future? So the next 50 years, what can we build and think about?
The gentleman mentioned a question related to the other schools in town. If we went 3 to 5, I'd like to know more about the impact on the other schools. Proctor, I don't think that's ever been
1998.
1998? Okay. And that meets current code, I assume?
It meets 1998 codes.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it has that.
Just like this means.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm
Even
assuming-
Lincoln Street, even our newest building, Lincoln Street,
Right.
doesn't meet stretch code.
Right, so I guess if we're reallocating students 3 to 5 here, if that's the case down the road, and then we're shifting the 1 to 2 here in pre-K to the other schools, what's the impact in terms of size for each per classroom size in the gym? Is that going to cause us then to have to say, oh gosh, you know, we have to now get Proctor and remodel that, or, you know, Z school my son is going to, or where my mother went to back in 1955 or something. You know, does that have to be redone as well? Is this going to become a snowball in this town? Because, again, to the gentleman's point, you know, taxes went up $1,000 this year, and with this project, it's going to easily go up another $1,000, I'm sure. And then with everything else, Z's getting a new roof, that's $3 million out of pocket in town. It's just snowballing. I certainly understand we need it, but there's a lot of questions around. Yeah, I may not. Yeah, I may not.
So Z and Proctor were renovated and added to in 1998. So what we're looking at now are upgrades to major systems. So roofs, HVAC, you know, those are the systems that typically like your home, you know.
Right.
Roofs, windows, HVAC systems. When we map out kind of the capital plan for these buildings over time, you know, we're looking at still a couple roof projects. Proctor's done with roofs. Lincoln's in good place. Obviously, on the capital articles for the Springtown meeting, we have the Z roof. We have new boilers at Z. That was an investment, and at Proctor. So it's looking at other smaller upgrades over the next 20 to 25 years for those buildings.
Thank you.
But it's not this process.
Yeah.
Those buildings.
Right.
Lauren Bailey-Jones, 11 Elmwood Drive, Office School Committee and peaslee-school-building-committee. So could we have clarity on, in terms of enrollment numbers, if we were to go to the 3 to 5 grade configuration, in terms of space in the other 3 elementary schools, that would seem like that would be a lot of space for the remaining grades. So would it be efficient to continue to run all 3 other elementary schools, or would we need to have a larger conversation about decommissioning one of those buildings?
So that's a conversation that we'd have to have around decommissioning one of the buildings potentially. I think when we look at enrollment, having a larger 3 through 5 grade spans school does provide an opportunity for us to study whether we can reduce our school footprint by one building. What building that is really a bigger conversation. But I think we're looking at enrollment sizes for the K-2 around 250 to 275. And there is a question, can we fit in 2 buildings versus 3 for grades K through 2?
Thank you. Also, I'm curious, I know that tonight's sort of revolving around neighborhood school versus school consolidation. And I think that's a huge conversation that we have touched upon. If you look around, there's only a few of us in the room, and half of us have been to this presentation before. So I think my worry is that not enough people are part of this conversation yet. I know we do have more forums coming up. So I think I'm just curious how we can get the word out more about the information shared tonight in a more compact way, and sort of what that plan is, so that, when we're trying to make this decision, is it by August that we need to make that decision? We have the town that has enough information to be on board with that.
Yeah, I think the community.
Hold on.
100% understand. So I think that's why this is great. You've been part of this before, but getting the message out is going to be instrumental. You know, there's access to where you can find information. Obviously, this presentation would be posted to that. And I think what it comes down to, and I've done a lot of these projects, it's everybody in this room reaching out to another 4 people and just saying, you know, show up, be part of the conversation. Because, yeah, you don't want to wait to the very end and everybody starts pulling together, because if it's a constant message from like day one, you know, today, it's going to resonate when you come out to actually support a project. But I absolutely hear your concern with that. But as far as our presentations, those are all going to be posted. And I know Erica was looking into doing some kind of video of the existing school that we're going to be part of and documenting that. So we're looking at a whole different types of media to update.
I just have one other question as well. Regardless of what path we go down, remodel, tear, rebuild, I'd like to make sure that we really contemplate about alternative energy. You know, solar, making it energy neutral. Certainly save the town a lot of cost over time. Upfront cost obviously is a little high in terms of solar, that's half. But obviously over time it would be a big savings. I think it would certainly be worth it if the construction of the building could manage that type of payload on top of it over time. Because it could be not only beneficial for the school itself, but if it's large enough installation, it can be beneficial for the town. So, it's something I'd like to consider.
Yeah, and part of the process is we're working with our LEED scorecard. That's mandatory to be, even receive grant, you have to get LEED certified for this project. But looking at reducing fossil fuels and different options, so our mechanical engineers are going to look at, you know, everything from geothermal to if there's solar, that's going to be provisions for at the very least. And with the geothermal, there's still IRA tax credits to take advantage of that. So we're looking at that right now.
Great.
We'll have more to get back in the April community forum.
Great.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. This presentation is going to be, it's being recorded, so it'll go live tomorrow. And thank you to our Northborough Cable for helping us set up tonight. So thank you. Please spread the word. So we are counting on us, and we have a communications subcommittee working diligently for the communication plan, but we're also counting on you to share to friends and get the word out that to be part of this conversation. So thank you very much. Yes.
Can I just say one thing?
You can say one thing, Leslie.
Okay.
Say your name.
Leslie Chan, 22 Hemlock Drive. First of all, I do want to thank you very much for all this information. It's very interesting, and as Lauren pointed out, there are a lot of issues. John, things you were saying. Also, I mean, they're all very important things. I do find, by the way, that when the town sends out emails about upcoming meetings, and you click here, that type of thing, I don't know what the percentages of people who use, do we know, who use the town website, the Notify Me, so that they get town emails? I don't know how many people use that, but it's a great...
I use it. I get notifications from the town, I sign up for it.
Yeah.
I also belong to the Facebook town site, so I get notified of it.
Yes.
So,
And all those are great vehicles, but I think that's a great way to get people. And then you can click here and you can see the presentation.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You get your phone.
That's good. Yeah.